Imagine dedicating your life to saving others, only to be treated like the very threat you protect people from. That's exactly what happened to Dr. Marcus Taylor. One ordinary drive home ended with him face down on the pavement, accused of a crime he didn't commit. But when the cop found out who he really was, everything changed. But fate had something darker planned. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and comment where you're watching us from, and share your thought in the comment section. As Marcus drove through a quiet suburban neighborhood, blue and red lights suddenly lit up his rearview mirror. His heart sank. "Not again," he whispered under his breath. This wasn't the first time he'd been pulled over for what police called a routine traffic stop. The officer approached his car, a tall, heavyset man with a sneer already curling across his lips. His badge gleamed, but his attitude carried something else: hostility. License and registration. The cop barked. Marcus stayed calm, his voice steady. "Of course, officer. May I ask why I was stopped?" The officer smirked. "You don't ask questions here. You answer. Now step out of the car." Marcus's hands tightened on the wheel. He wasn't speeding. He hadn't broken a single law. Still, he knew that arguing was dangerous. So, he obeyed. The moment he stepped out, the officer's voice grew sharper. "What are you doing in this neighborhood? You think you can just cruise around here dressed like that?" He gestured at Marcus's scrubs. Marcus tried to explain. "I'm a doctor. I just finished my shift." But before he could finish, the officer cut him off. "Save it. I've heard every excuse in the book." Hands on the car. And just like that, the humiliation began. In the middle of the street, neighbors peeking from their windows, a man who had just saved a child's life now being treated like a criminal. The officer patted Marcus down aggressively, his words laced with venom. "Guys like you don't belong here. You think you're somebody? You're nothing but trouble." Marcus bit his lip. He had spent his life working twice as hard to prove himself. Top of his class, one of the youngest surgeons in his state, a man who dedicated every ounce of his strength to saving lives. Yet here he was, reduced to nothing in this officer's eyes. As the cop dug through Marcus's car, tossing medical papers onto the ground, Marcus felt a mix of rage and despair. "Sir, those are confidential patient files. Please, I'm begging you." The cop laughed. "Confidential? Don't make me laugh. What are you hiding? Huh? Drugs? Stolen meds? Tell me the truth now, and maybe I'll go easy on you." Marcus could only shake his head. He knew this wasn't about the law. It was about power. A crowd started to gather. A few neighbors had stepped outside, phones in hand, recording. The officer noticed but didn't stop. He was too confident, too arrogant, certain that his badge would protect him. And then, things escalated. The officer pulled out his handcuffs. "You're under arrest for resisting and suspicious behavior." Marcus's chest tightened. Arrest? Suspicious behavior? He hadn't resisted anything. He hadn't broken the law. This wasn't justice. It was humiliation. But Marcus also knew something the officer didn't. Something that would change everything. As the officer snapped the cuffs onto Marcus's wrist, a black SUV pulled up. The doors opened, and out stepped a woman in a sharp suit. She carried authority in every step. It was Judge Evelyn Carter, the very same judge who had presided over cases of police misconduct before. And she wasn't just any judge. She was Marcus's sister. The officer froze. "This is a police investigation. Please step back." But Judge Carter's eyes narrowed. "Investigation? All I see is racial profiling and harassment." She held up a phone, and it's all on camera. The officer stammered. "He was acting suspicious. I had probable cause." Judge Carter cut him off, her voice booming with righteous fury. Probable cause? His Dr. Marcus Taylor, a respected surgeon. And tonight, he saved a little girl's life while you were out here abusing your badge. Gasps rippled through the crowd. The officer's face drained to color. And just like that, the power dynamic shifted. Marcus lifted his head, his dignity restored by the truth. The same hands that had been cuffed were the very hands that had saved lives. The officer, once so smug, now stood trembling in front of a community that had witnessed his racism firsthand. Judge Carter turned to Marcus. "Don't worry, little brother. This won't be swept under the rug. Not this time. For the first time all night, Marcus smiled. Not because the pain had gone away, but because justice had finally spoken louder than prejudice. The story of Dr. Marcus Taylor isn't just about one traffic stop. It's about the silent battles so many fight every day, battles against prejudice, humiliation, and abuse of power. It's about the truth that no matter how much hate tries to silence someone, justice is a way of finding its voice. And it reminds us of a lesson too often forgotten. Never judge someone by the color of their skin, because behind every face, there's a story. And some stories carry more power than a badge of a will. But just when Marcus thought the nightmare was over, he received a chilling phone call. A distorted voice whispered through the line. "You think you won tonight. Doctor, this isn't over." Marcus froze. His heart pounded, because now, he wasn't just fighting for his dignity. He was fighting for his life. Dr. Marcus Taylor thought the worst was over. The racist cop who humiliated him had been exposed in front of the entire neighborhood. His sister, Judge Evelyn Carter, had promised justice. And for the first time that night, Marcus believed the nightmare was behind him. But that belief shattered less than 24 hours later. As Marcus tucked his children into bed, his phone buzzed. A blocked number. He hesitated, then answered. A distorted voice came through, low and menacing. "You embarrassed me. You think this is over? Watch your back, Doctor." Marcus froze. His wife noticed the fear in his eyes. "Marcus, who was that?" He couldn't bring himself to tell her the truth, because deep down, he knew it was a cop. And this wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about survival. The next few days became a nightmare. First, Marcus noticed a strange car parked near his home. Dark windows, engine running. Each time he looked out, the vehicle sped away. Then came the hospital. While Marcus scrubbed in for surgery, his car alarm blared in the parking lot. He ran out, only to find his tires slashed, windows shattered, spray painted across the hood with the words, "Know your place." His colleagues stayed in shock. Some whispered, others looked away. The humiliation cut deeper than the damage. Judge Carter urged him to report it, but Marcus hesitated. What if the police don't protect me? What if they protect him instead? And Marcus wasn't wrong. When he filed a complaint, the officer assigned to the case smirked. "You sure you didn't do this yourself? People make things up for attention these days." Marcus realized the system wasn't broken. It was protecting itself. The cop had allies, and those allies were determined to break him. The harassment escalated. Strange calls in the middle of the night. Shadows moving outside his home. His children waking up terrified, convinced someone was watching them through their bedroom window. Marcus's once calm, noble life now felt like a war zone. But Marcus was a doctor, a man of discipline, resilience, and logic. He refused to be broken. So he started documenting everything. Every call, every threat, every shadow caught on his home security cameras. And when the cop and his friends finally made their boldest move, Marcus was ready. One night, as Marcus left the hospital, 3 men surrounded him in the parking lot, faces covered, voices low. "You ruined his career," one spat. "Now we're gonna ruin yours." But what they didn't know was that Marcus had quietly alerted the FBI days earlier. Judge Carter had pulled strings. Federal investigators were already watching, waiting for the cops' next move. The moment the men lunged, black SUVs surrounded the lot. Agents swarmed. Guns drawn. "FBI, drop your weapons." The attackers froze, their masks ripped away, and among them stood the very same racist cop who had stopped Marcus days earlier. The crowd gasped. Cameras flashed. This time, it wasn't neighbors with cell phones. It was national news. The badge that once gave the cop power now became his downfall. The evidence Marcus collected, the recordings, the threats, they all came crashing down on him in a storm of justice. And Marcus, once humiliated on the side of the road, now stood tall in the center of truth. Dr. Marcus Taylor's story teaches us something vital. Evil may hide behind a badge, but truth always finds its light. Hate may try to silence dignity, but dignity speaks louder when it stands firm. And sometimes, the greatest power isn't found in violence or rage. It's found in resilience, patience, and courage. Marcus didn't fight back with fists. He fought back with truth, and in the end, truth was enough. But just when Marcus began to feel safe again, another revelation shook him to his core. The FBI agent pulled him aside and whispered, "Doctor, we've uncovered something bigger. This cop wasn't working alone. There's an entire network, and they've been targeting families like yours for years." Marcus's stomach dropped. A network? How deep did this go? The fight wasn't over. In fact, it was only beginning. Dr. Marcus Taylor had faced humiliation. He had faced threats. He had even faced physical danger. But what the FBI told him that night chilled him more than anything else. This wasn't one man, the agent whispered. It's a network. Officers, lawyers, even judges. And you're not their first target. Marcus felt the weight of those words. His ordeal had only scratched the surface. The real enemy was much larger. And now, he was caught in the middle. The FBI began investigating, but Marcus wasn't safe. The network was careful, powerful, and deeply rooted. Anonymous letters arrived at his house. "Drop the case or your family pays." His hospital patients noticed unmarked cars circling the parking lot. Nurses whispered about strangers asking questions about him. One night, Marcus came home to find his front door wide open. Inside, nothing was stolen, except for one thing. His children's family photo. The message was clear. Judge Evelyn Carter, his sister, pushed for more protection. But even she admitted, "Marcus, some of these people sit above me in the system." The walls of justice themselves were infected. Marcus felt like David standing against Goliath. But David always finds a stone. A breakthrough came from an unlikely place, a young rookie cop who reached out in secret. "I can't stay silent anymore," she whispered. "I've seen the files, the threats, the cover-ups, and I've recorded everything." She handed Marcus a hard drive. Inside, names, dates, evidence of corruption stretching back years. It was a weapon Marcus needed, but it came with a warning. "They'll come for you if they find out you have this. You can't trust anyone." Marcus realized the fight had escalated beyond survival. Now, he held the truth that could dismantle the entire network. Sometimes, evil doesn't fall in one strike. It hides in shadows, feeding off silence and fear. But even in the darkest networks, there are lights, brave souls willing to risk everything for truth. And truth, once uncovered, becomes impossible to bury again. That night, Marcus plugged in the hard drive. File after file exposed corruption at the highest levels. His hands shook, but then his computer screen flickered. A message appeared. "We know what you have. This ends tonight." And suddenly, the lights in his house went dark. The night the lights went out, Marcus grabbed his family and ran. Through the window, dark figures approached. They weren't hiding anymore. Just as one tried to force the door open, sirens filled the street. FBI vehicles swarmed, flashing lights slicing through the darkness. The attackers scattered, but several were caught. Among them, city officials, officers Marcus once saw in uniform. The network was unraveling, but the war wasn't over. Weeks later, the courtroom became the battlefield. On one side, Marcus, Judge Carter, the rookie cop, and the FBI, armed with files, recordings, and testimonies. On the other, the corrupt officers, lawyers, and their powerful allies. They had money, influence, and an army of lawyers. The defense tried everything, discrediting Marcus, painting him as unstable, even suggesting he fabricated evidence. Marcus sat silently, feeling the weight of the nation's eyes. This wasn't just his fight anymore. It was a fight for every family silenced by abuse of power. The turning point came when the rookie cop took the stand. Voice shaking but steady, she revealed the tapes, conversations of officers plotting cover-ups, admitting to targeting Marcus, and laughing about keeping people in their place. The courtroom went silent. Then, gasps. The truth was undeniable. The jury deliberated for days. Tension stretched across the city. Finally, the verdict was read. Guilty on all counts. The racist cop who once mocked Marcus now stood in shackles. The network of corruption was exposed, careers destroyed, reputation shattered. For the first time, Marcus felt the weight lift from his shoulders. Justice wasn't perfect. The scars would remain. But for once, Justice had been served. Hate may rise, corruption may spread, but truth, when carried with courage, is stronger than both. And though justice may be delayed, when it arrives, it changes everything. Because in the end, dignity doesn't bow to power. Power bows to truth. As Marcus walked out of the courthouse, reporters crowded him. Cameras flashed, but he only smiled faintly, holding his wife's hand. When asked how he felt, he answered simply, "I'm not a victim. I'm a survivor, and I won't stop fighting until no one else has to go through what I did." The crowd erupted in applause, and for the first time, Marcus knew the nightmare was over.